DeAndre Swift, 96 yards. Bring me home, baby.
And he would spank that line. His rushing prop is what? I think it's 55.5?
Yep.
Somewhere around there. So
That's right.
I like that you just blew past the fact that George used the verb spank to describe DeAndre Swift.
Sorry, on brand.
That's that Greek stuff right there. Not that Georgian stuff.
Not even
We
going to
don't
touch
do that in Georgia. We ain't doing that in old Georgia down there.
All right, let's finish strong. I'll bring it on home, guys. Cardinals.
I take it back, Lawrence. This is going to be in this chair Monday.
I don't think anyone's going to be in these chairs.
I take it back. It's going to be like Chris Sims or somebody. I don't know.
It's just going to be 4 empty seats for 2 hours.
Yeah,
for week 4.
Connor Rogers.
Might just be Jay and Connor talking to each other.
Fantasy Football Pregame with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
If I know one thing here on Fantasy Football Pregame, it's that our bosses have very low standards, and the 4 of us are back once again for week number 4 of this NFL season. George Savaricas is pleased to be sitting alongside Matthew Berry, Jay Croucher, and Lawrence Jackson. Week number 4, boys, we are getting ready. We got some important head-to-heads in the League of Assholes right out of the gates. 2 guys.
Slap you like a grape.
Grudge match right here. Right. You almost got to hold them back out of the gates, Matthew.
That's right. Me and Jay going head-to-head. At the end of this week, I will be victorious. Jay will.
I believe you are projected as the loser by the knowledgeable computers.
Those infallible
Yeah.
projections.
They yes, and those are never wrong. Never wrong. You do have a good team. Here you can look at right here. Look at this. Lawrence and George, you guys break it down. I feel pretty good about Live at Noon on the Cock. I got Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels. I feel pretty good about those guys. But you guys tell me.
What's the breakdown, Lawrence?
Well, you see where Matthew has the clear advantage is the quarterback position. Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels are the top 2 quarterbacks in fantasy right now. You do got the ups. Jay does have the upside, and Joe Burrow with another good matchup. But I think what it's going to come down to here is these receivers. Can Matthews, Mike Evans get back going again? He's got Rashee Rice there, and for Jay, can Brandon Ayuk get going? We got Devo coming back, so we'll see what goes on there.
Diggs gets a boost with Tank Dell out.
Tank
I like
Dell
my
out.
JSN over Tyler Lockett here. I am nervous about Jordan Mason, and Marvin Harrison may. Marvin Harrison may.
He's my trump card.
And Jay, you got
nullify
Chuba
my
Hubbard, who's
Chuba having a great game last week.
I know.
Favorable matchup against the Bengals. Fear Chuba. Fear him.
I do. I do. Chuba's gonna have a good game. Chuba's gonna have a good game. It's gonna be a good matchup. It's gonna be a very good matchup. But I like my team. That's a 12-team, obviously very deep league as well. I'm excited to get Ken Walker back on Monday night. You obviously have Jordan Mason. You've been rolling with him, so we'll see how it all plays out.
Rematch of last year's
semifinal. Yes.
Yes.
I was cruelled by that one.
Yes.
Deontay Johnson missed the wide open touchdown pass, which would have reduced the margin of my loss.
Did you have Easton Stick?
I did have to start Easton Stick, which I wasn't so happy about. He didn't really do it for me.
The Stick man. He's now a free agent in the League of Assholes, available for anyone to be picked up, including the 2 of you. But yeah, I mean, I know that Jay has put it up in the virtual locker room, that loss. You guys have been talking about it all offseason. You've circled this on the calendar.
Yes. Shades of Lamar Jackson after losing the AFC title game and then running a million times against the Chiefs. We're going to leave it all out in the field.
Yeah.
For slapping.
They did, in fact, lose again.
They did lose.
So, I mean, I think that's what
about the effort.
By God, they were close.
It's about the effort.
Yeah.
Let's get to our
What's top of mind for your headline?
My storyline, honestly, is I think one of the biggest storylines in all of fantasy football this entire season so far is can we get a tight end? Will an elite tight end please stand up? We've seen kind of 2 nice games from Jake Ferguson. Brock Bowers has been a revelation, obviously, and Dalton Kincaid finally showed signs of life last week. But for the most part, elite tight ends have been absolutely brutal. Can Mark Andrews do anything tonight? Can Travis Kelce do anything tonight? Trey McBride is not going to play today. He's in concussion protocol. A couple of other big name tight ends as well are out today. Evan Ingram's not going to play. David Njoku's not going to play. So that's my big storyline is, are we still in this tight end desert of fantasy points where we can't find anyone consistent, or will the big name guys finally show up in what should be decent matchups for all of them?
we want questions throughout the show. Hit us at #FFPregame. Perfect segue right here from Manuel. Asked tight end replacements for McBride, Ertz, or Gesicki.
It's Zach Ertz in a revenge game for him and Cliff Kingsbury. Look, Zach Ertz, doesn't score a ton of touchdowns, but Gesicki's basically in like a tight end by committee. Eric All, and with T. Higgins back and Andre Yoshevich, it's just like there's just too many mouths to feed in that Cincinnati offense. I get the matchup against the Panthers, but give me Zach Ertz today.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
All right, 100%. There we go.
Notable players ruled out before we get to the rest of the storylines for week number 4. Jaylen Warren out for the Steelers. How is that going to impact Jay Croucher's guy, Najee Harris? We'll get to that later in the show. Austin Eckler had that concussion last week. He is out. Devontae Adams out. A.J. Brown was limited at practice on Friday, unable to give it a go. Devonta Smith out again. Tank Dell is out. And then you got other tight ends as well. Evan Ingram and David Njoku once again out for the Browns. So something to keep in mind as you are setting your lineups heading into the early games at 1 o'clock Eastern time. And let's lead into our next storyline now. Jay, what do you got?
So I've got the Indianapolis Colts. I think this is kind of judgment day for their offense. They're 2.5-point dogs at home to the Steelers, who might have the best defense in football. Anthony Richardson, the accuracy just hasn't been there all season. So I think Shane Steichen's one of the 4 or 5 best offensive minds in football. So I think there is going to be some sort of change to this offense. But what does it look like? Is it just going to be the Jonathan Taylor show? His rushing prop is set at 75.5. That's among the highest of anyone. What are we going to see out of Michael Pittman? Josh Downs back? Is Alec Pierce, who's been one of the only guys who's gotten going?
A.D. Mitchell, can they get him going?
Yeah, a lot of question marks about the Colts offense. This is season on the line. If they go to 1-3, then it gets really uphill to make the playoffs.
What's weird, though, is just very quickly off that, if they go to 1-3, then you sort of feel like, okay, I weirdly think Richardson's job is safer if they lose than if they win. I know this sounds insane, but like if they pull Richardson and Joe Flacco leads them to a comeback, then there's a conversation, right? But I
can't hear the words Joe Flacco.
I'm with you. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to pick a scab there, but I will say that I will say that if they go to 1-3 and you're like, okay, the season's lost, then you've just got to give Richardson time and just. You know what I mean? Like, then you just got to get him some experience.
I think they've got to just give him the whole season, whatever.
Regardless happens.
8th start in his career. Yeah. Youngest starting quarterback in the league.
It's such a small sample size. I agree that you need a whole season of reps to really fairly evaluate the guy. And if you're starting to think, are we leaning towards Flacco to salvage this season early on?
Woo.
You could be in trouble. From
God.
Jay Nash. Gotta like the handle there. Tacos and bourbon. #FF Pregame Standard League. Do I flex Roshan Johnson, Michael Pittman, Zamir White, or Chase Brown? A bevy of backup running back options, and Michael Pittman sprinkled in there as well.
I get the question because and by the way, like if I was Jay Nash and I was having to decide between those 4, I would drink a lot of bourbon and wash it down with a couple of tacos there. This is ugly, but I'm gonna say Zamir White. The Browns. I feel like this is a game in which the Raiders have no Devontae Adams there. There's questions at quarterback here, so I think they go run heavy against the Browns. The Browns don't scare you anymore. The Browns defense on the road doesn't scare you anymore, and so. Which one of these guys has the best chance of falling into the end zone? I'm not chasing Roshan Johnson yet. I want to see what happens with Chicago. I think Roshan Johnson might be coming, but he's not going to be the guy just yet. His time is coming. But Chase Brown, same thing. So to me, it's Zamir White or Michael Pittman, and just Pittman's been so bad. Zamir White has the best chance of falling into the end zone of those guys. So that's. To me, who I would go. I do think they go run heavy. The Raiders do today against the Browns at home.
Yeah, that's the logic. And I think the biggest point that you made was the Browns. It's not like, oh, the Browns defense. We just recently saw Daniel Jones go to their house and give them that work. And Devin Singletary had a good day versus them as well. So you figure Zamir White, he's at least going to get the most opportunities out of everybody on the screen. So I would have to go with him as well.
Only concern was Zamir White last 2 weeks out of the clouds. Alexander Madison has vultured touches inside the 2-yard line and had back-to-back.
And last week they
That's
got
why I'm saying
behind.
this guy's got to start drinking bourbon and eating tacos ASAP. Like, none of them are good choices. Jay knows that. Jay Nash is well aware that, life comes at you fast. But you're asking me which one of those four. I'm saying Zamir White. You're hoping he gets in. I mean, do you disagree? Would you go Pittman? Would you go one of those?
No, Pittman's worse. I'd maybe
that's what I'm
consider
saying.
Roschon, but the Bears' running game objectively worse than the Raiders. So I would probably, on my third bourbon, finally go Zamir White start.
Look, Rashawn Johnson could. Like, we all think DeAndre Swift is terrible, and we do think that Rashawn Johnson's touches have increased, but you also got Khalil Herbert there, and just they haven't committed. They
haven't
so
committed
much,
to the run.
They haven't committed to the run yet, and they haven't committed to Johnson yet. So you're chasing a part of a third. I don't know.
A hypothetical.
Zamir, of the guys you listed, Zamir White's role is the most solidified, and compared with Pittman, he's got the better shot at a touchdown. Pittman never scores touchdowns.
Yeah. Pittman's had 46.5 receiving yards as well. So that's the Pittman is a PPR merchant in a way, but there's no kind of R at the moment.
What'd you say?
Eddie Richardson can't
Well, it was
complete
different
passes.
with Gardner
Ain't no
Minshew last week.
PPRing going on.
Yeah, no, exactly right.
Lawrence,
Exactly right.
what do you got?
Mine's gonna be, can Andy Dalton's in this Panthers offense, can they take it to this struggling Bengals defense again? We saw Andy Dalton come in, the offense looked rolling. He threw for 300 yards. Deontay Johnson, 122 yards and a touchdown. Chuba Hubbard, he got going. Great day for him. The offense as a whole just looked better. So can they keep that going versus a Bengals defense, which we saw what rookie Jaden Daniels and that Commanders offense did to them in Cincinnati. So, can the Panthers just keep this going and keep our Panthers skill guys relevant in fantasy?
Ah, there he is, the red rifle checking in.
He is. Look at that.
Hashtag keep pounding.
Yeah. Hashtag keep pounding. Hashtag revenge game. Hashtag red rocket. Hashtag red dog.
Red dog.
Yeah. Red dawn. Red dog. Red rider.
Red rising.
Red rifle. Red rising. Red rooster.
Red under the bed.
I don't even know what that means, but yeah, I'm down for it.
We allowed to say that on TV?
Sure. It's Peacock. It's YouTube.
It's a Cold War reference.
Yeah, exactly. It's fantastic. It's fine. Totally fine. I say yes, by the way, but I agree with you. Like, Andy Dalton has given life to the Panthers offense. Like, if they beat the Bengals today, and the Bengals go to 0-4, like, that's a fascinating game.
On the other side of it, you talk about Judgment Day. That's the real Judgment Day on the other side for the Bengals as a whole, because you get to 0-4, them playoffs, ain't no playoffs, so that's tough.
Yeah, no chance.
That's the real Judgment Day over there.
I know. I would like to see. We love Joe Burrow here, obviously, proud fantasy life investor.
Yeah.
But I would be lying if I said.
Gotta say that first.
I do, of course. In all seriousness, but beyond just like the promo, it's just like I want to be honest about, like, I have a business relationship with the guy before I give any analysis. But I just, there is something fun about Andy Dalton revenge game beating the Bengals.
Red rifle.
Like, again,
They'd be 2 games ahead of the Bengals in the standings.
I love Joe Burrow, but the Bengals. Everyone knows they bone them. They bone you when you root for the Bengals. Every Bengals fan knows this.
It is a new era, though. They didn't make the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Shout out, but they lost, and they should have won. Shout out to my friend Brian, who's a lifelong Bengals fan. I'm just telling you.
I learned that the hard way last week. I
but
bet Bengals outright, and then I chased them at the half. Went over for 2.
How many people are sitting there going, like, I used to be in a survivor pool, and then I picked the Bengals at home against the Commanders. Yeah.
Or at home against the Patriots.
Yes,
well.
exactly. They bone you. I'm telling you, everyone knows this. Anyway.
Another team with their back against the wall, the 49ers 1-2. If we were sitting here mid-August and you looked at the fantasy pieces that they have, you would think CMC, another lock to be a top 3 guy, Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Kittle, all going to be big factors. Maybe Brock Purdy's a question mark. Through 3 weeks, it's been Jordan Mason and now Juwan Jennings last week. But you got Kittle and Debo coming back. CMC, we have no idea when he's coming back after his trip to Germany. So what does it mean to Juwan Jennings? Is he going to be a piece that you just hold on and see what his role is like with all these guys returning? Is he going to be a viable flex play going forward? So we're going to see this week what the 49ers offense is going to look like now that we have Debo, George Kittle back in the fold, because the week that Jennings had last week. I mean, the best we've seen from any receiver in fantasy. Absolutely went off, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns. So a guy that you've been, obviously, both of you guys have been touting since the Super Bowl, saying he should have won MVP had they hypothetically gone on to win the Super Bowl. So we've seen flashes of his talent. Will it still be on display week number 4? All right, let's get now into our burning questions. Taking a look
give me
at
that
some of
animation. There he is.
top
Angry
games.
Lawrence. It's
so
like,
mad.
see, I'm happy. Jay's happy. Lawrence is angry. George just looks stoned.
Gotta be when you're that close to
Seriously,
the
look at your
flame.
face, George. You look stoned there.
I was going to say he looks fairly content with life, just happy to be here, just like that half-ass smile.
Yeah, because he's
just like,
because he's stoned in that picture. That's what I'm telling you. I'm just
When you're 1-2 to start the season,
I'm
you gotta.
just
I mean,
showing
the
what
picture
said.
is we
The
are
picture is what the
burning in
picture
the
is.
picture. We are burning in the picture.
All right, what's our burning question?
Taking it very literally here. So tweet the show, hashtag FF pregame. First game that we were looking at out of the gates. Steelers undefeated. They're perfect 3-0 on the road at the Colts. We got the over-under at 40. Steelers 2.5-point favorites. So with Anthony Richardson, and this is something that I've been grappling with in my home league. I have Richardson benched for Sam Darnold. Can you start Anthony Richardson this week against the Steelers, who are one of the top defenses in the NFL?
You can if you have no one better than 1 through 15. You can start him if you don't have any. If
You got no other
if
option.
you got no other options. But I mean, listen, he made my hate list. You see it right there. He's my QB 16, and that's after Dak Prescott in the Thursday night game have been moved from the ranks. Steelers top 5 in both rushing and passing defense. They're the number 1 scoring defense. They've yet to allow a quarterback to score double-digit fantasy points, and that includes games against guys like Kirk Cousins or Justin Herbert. Oh, by the way, Richardson's been bad this year. He's been bad. He has a 17.8% off-target rate. He has yet to have a game with a completion percentage above 50%. So you've got a struggling young quarterback going against an elite defense, and so you're hoping he runs into the end zone. Like, that's the only saving grace here for Anthony Richardson, just because it hasn't been the volume he's in. I've been there. Like, he hasn't been chucking it a ton over every game. There have been some games where he's got 9 pass attempts, 13 pass attempts. I would not start Anthony Richardson if I had a viable option.
Yeah, I think it's going to turn at some point for
Sure.
Richardson. I think, to Lawrence's point, he's played, 8 games in his career. Well, this will be game number 8. So I think that it'll turn.
And probably only played 5 full games?
Yeah.
I mean, right.
5 full games. So, look, I just believe in Shane Steichen. Look at what he got out of Gardner Minshew, particularly in the second half of the season. So I think that Richardson, he is also incredibly high ceiling. Like, if Anthony Richardson finishes the day as the number 1 fantasy quarterback, it'll be a bit surprising, but not so surprising.
It's
a
within the
difficult
range of
matchup.
outcomes for many times.
So I think he is a super high ceiling player at the moment, but quite a low floor player as well.
Question on YouTube from AJ Johnson. Hey, hashtag FF pregame. Fun question. Super flex lead. Jaden Daniels. Would you sit Richardson today for wide receivers like Pickens, Jamio, or Garrett Wilson? Or
Yeah,
always
he
play
means
the QB?
he means Jameson Williams.
Jameson
Yeah,
Williams.
Jameson Williams has a tough matchup on Monday night against a Seattle Seahawks defense. By the way, that's number 1 against the pass so far this season. You do have Pickens here, but I just think they're going to run so heavily against the Colts. And Garrett Wilson, we talked about Patrick Surtain. So the only guy you could actually consider here would be Pickens, but I can't, in a super flex league, I just can't bench a quarterback for a wide receiver. I just can't. Yeah, I mean, I get it, AJ. I don't think it's a fun question the way you think it is. Being honest
It's
with
fun
you.
for him.
Yeah. I don't think it's
regular,
you and I have
solid
different
question.
definitions of the word fun, but I would still play Richardson here.
Yes. Matthew likes, water slides. and
Yes!
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, snow cones,
Yeah.
puppies,
Popcorn.
So
popcorn. I love me some popcorn. Big
Chicken.
fan of diet soda.
Chicken tenders.
Yeah, chicken tenders. Basically anything a 12-year-old boy would like.
Good, clean
I like.
fun.
Yeah.
That's basically. I've never grown up. Yeah,
don't
quote Jimmy
think
Buffett. I've grown older, but not up.
I don't think any of us have.
That's why we're sitting here.
I definitely didn't. Exactly. As far as starting Anthony Richardson, I think it's for this particular week, it's about your options. I wouldn't. It's crazy. Well, it ain't crazy to me, but I wouldn't bench him for Sam Darnold.
Really?
Oh, I
Nah.
absolutely would.
Nah.
What?
I wouldn't bench him for Sam Darnold. So he's quarterback 15 in points per game right now. Joe Burrow, before he played the Commanders defense, he was quarterback 20. So, like, can we start C.J. Stroud? He's quarterback 17. Can we start Jared Goff? He's quarterback 24. Matthew Stafford. Like, so it just, like, who else do we have? Like, in my particular situation, right, I got a couple of teams where I got, actually 2 teams where I got Daniels and Richardson. Oh, I'm starting Jaden Daniels today.
Obviously.
Just the
No-brainer.
matchup. He's played better. But in other leagues where I, like, was all in on Anthony Richardson, like, you gotta start him because it's like, who else could you start? Like, cool. If you say Sam Darnold,
100% Sam Darnold.
all right, cool.
I don't think that's close.
Because the Steelers are giving up 8.6 points per game. They have the best defense in the NFL.
Anthony Richardson has played poorly and has a tough matchup. Sam Darnold has played brilliantly and has an okay matchup. It's on the road at Green Bay, and the Packers have a good defense, but it's not like the Packers. The Packers aren't the Steelers. The Packers are the 12th best defense against the pass over the last 3 weeks, right? I mean, like, you know, and that includes games against, like, Will Levis. I mean,
I think if you
I would start Darnold today 100 times out of 100. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but you're playing odds here.
Yeah, right. And that's what I'm so with Anthony Richardson, the thing, he's basically giving us like a Josh Allen 2018 tour. That's kind of what he's giving us. He's still got the deep ball upside and he can run. So that's kind of what you got to hang your hat on if you don't have another option.
Yep.
That's what I would say.
Beyond this week, I agree with Jay, where he's going to course correct and you're going to get fantasy utility out of him. It's just a cringeworthy matchup this week.
It's a tough one.
With how good the Steelers defense has looked. So we had touched on Garrett Wilson briefly. Our next matchup, the 1-2 Denver Broncos. Call them spunky after that win last week at the Bucs.
There's a lot of adjectives you can use. That is certainly one of them.
They're at the 2-1 New York Jets. This line has been jumping between Jets by 7.5, 8. Right now we got it at 7.5. The over-under, a low one, 39.5. So we got Garrett Wilson, who hasn't gone over 60 yards receiving in a game this year. We keep waiting for him to break out. How concerned are you that he's going up against Surtain this week, the Broncos shutdown corner?
I think the issue is that we've seen the past 2 weeks Garrett Wilson go up against shutdown shadow corners in Snead and Christian Gonzalez, and the Jets offense went elsewhere. And Aaron Rodgers was very open about and upfront about that, talking after the game against the Pats. So I suspect that this is probably going to unfold the same way. Like Garrett Wilson, his receiving prop is in the mid-50s. And that, I think, reflects where he is at the moment. It's going to change for Garrett Wilson. He's too good. He is going to go on a 3-week tear where he's the top 2 receiver in fantasy. That's going to happen at some point. But this is a tough matchup against Patrick Surtain.
Especially because, by the way, I don't think they're going to need it. Like, this is yes, Bo Nix and the Broncos offense looked better last week against Tampa Bay, right? And they so give credit, Sean Payton, rearranged the things. But outside of Surtain, they've struggled somewhat defensively. They definitely don't play that well against the run. The Broncos are like a bottom 12 run defense so far this season, and so I think it's a lot of Breece Hall and Braylon Allen in this game. And then again, like going up against the Jets defense, like they're a 7.5-point favorite. The Jets are. They're over a touchdown home favorite. So the expectation here is that they're not going to have to throw. The only thing you're banking on here, and I completely agree with Jay that I think you're going. Jonathan Taylor is the answer right here. By the way, it's not close. Yeah. Because we just think it's going to be so run heavy for the Colts in this particular game, right? But even against the Steelers, I'm still going with Jonathan Taylor. The only thing you're banking on here or hoping for is that petty Aaron Rodgers shows himself, right? And that because Sean Payton insulted Nathaniel Hackett when he got to Denver. Aaron Rodgers made a big point of like very publicly saying, like literally said, on camera, keep my coach's name out of your mouth, right? And so Aaron Rodgers is somebody who has a long memory and he's a petty dude. And there he is. Look, he's smiling. He's got sunglasses. He's about ready to light up the Broncos. He looks good, by the way.
Does look good.
Yeah, it's no Con Air look. He's got the jacket and the shirt. No mullet. Like it's clean shaven.
Yes, looks much more like.
He's smiling. I don't know why he's got the headphones in. He can't can we get
Can't
some
hear the haters.
Bluetooth? We can't get this guy some
old
Bluetooth
school guy.
headphones.
Yeah.
He's got the airplane headphones that they hand you out for free when you're trying to watch a movie.
That's
part of
when
it.
the
It's part of a look.
iPhone first had came out. Then what they gave you right there.
Feels like there's a sponsor out there. Like, we'll give you a pair, Aaron, if you want to just wear a nice pair of.
Look very good there, Aaron. Like a kind of crazy, stupid love Ryan Gosling type of look to replace his Nick Cage Con Air look of previous seasons.
So anyway, the point is, the only thing you're hoping here for Rodgers is that petty Aaron Rodgers shows up and he's just going to want to light up the scoreboard. But I think to Jay's point, you see that with maybe he tries to get Mike Williams going a little bit. Tyler Conklin had a big game last week. He loves him some Alan Lazard, and so just they'll get some to Garrett Wilson, but just. Who do you feel better about getting into the end zone? You feel better about Jonathan Taylor, specific to that one question that we got there in terms of volume of work. And to your point about the 50 receiving yards, I have Garrett Wilson at 18 after the Thursday night game. He was 21 in my initial rank, so he's a low end wide receiver 2 for me this week. It's worth noting about Surtain. DK Metcalf 3 for 29 against him. George Pickens 2 for 29. Mike Evans 2 for 17. He has yet to have a wide receiver get 6 fantasy points against him. Like, that's how good he's been. And unlike Pickens, or even on some level Evans and Metcalf, the Jets have so many more weapons that Aaron Rodgers can get the ball to.
On my list.
As insane as that sounds.
Yeah.
That we're calling Mike
Lazard.
Williams and Breece Hall and Tyler Conklin and Alan Lazard weapons. But it is. I mean, whatever. They look good last Thursday night. Give the Jets credit.
On the list of player props I was looking at, Garrett Wilson under was
Yes.
one of the only unders I was targeting just because of the stats that you had laid
I like
out
the
right
under.
there.
I like the under on Garrett Wilson today.
Next game, 2 teams with winning records. This should be a good one. 2-1 Eagles at the 2-1 Bucks. Philly favored -1 over under 42. With the Eagles, last week it was the Dallas Goedert breakout game. That's why he's tight end number 1. Had 170 yards receiving. We got A.J. Brown out, Devontae Smith out. So who is going to catch passes for the Philadelphia Eagles this week? Is Goddard going to run it back? Which wide receiver may emerge? What do you got, Lawrence?
Well, it's going to be those 2 guys from the Eagles that Matthew has ranked at number 1 in their position. That's who's going to be catching passes for him. We saw Dallas Goedert have the game of it. He hasn't had a game like that, not since the Eagles had both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. He hasn't been able to play like that, but they needed him. They needed him in that aspect, and I think they're going to need Saquon Barkley a little more in the passing game too, because when you go after that, it's Paris Campbell and Jahan Dotson, who's on the field all the time, but he ain't getting no targets, no catches. I think they even making John Ross active for this game at wide receiver, so I think they'll
That's a throwback.
Yeah, he's active today. 4.22 in the 40s some years ago. He's there. I think they'll try to lean on Saquon, lean on the run game, but when it comes to the throwing game, Dallas Goedert in some.
He's, for our purposes, he's the only guy you can start, Dallas Goedert. He's literally my number 1 tight end this week. Obviously, he had the 30% target share last week. Over the past 2 seasons, in games in which he gets at least 7 targets, and we'd expect him to get at least 7 targets against the Buccaneers, he's averaging 14.6 fantasy points per game. So you mentioned John Ross, Paris Campbell, Jahan Dotson, Johnny Wilson. This stat's unbelievable to me. Jahan Dotson has run 70 routes the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
he's gotten 5 targets. He's earned 5 targets. When you can't make Washington, we're not good. My Commanders, we aren't. We're not good.
I think you're selling it short, man.
You're
too
you know
selling it short.
You've gone too far the other way. Because the Commanders might be okay. They're not good, but they might be competent. They might be fine.
They could win today.
If they win today, then listen, you know me. No one loves my Commanders more than me. I am Travis Homer when it comes to my Commanders. Hail the Commanders, hail victory. But I don't know. Jane Daniels is the truth, but anyway, we'll see. I agree with you, Lawrence. They have a legit shot. I'm surprised they're getting 3.5. I like the Commanders to cover for sure against Arizona. We'll see if they win. But my point is Jahan Dotson couldn't make the Commanders. He was a former first-round pick, and Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn and Adam Peters saw enough in training camp to say, hey, we'll trade you within the division for, I think, a bag of magic beans and and a Saquon Barkley signed jersey. I literally think that's what Philadelphia, I'm not exactly sure what the trade terms were, but I think that's what they got back in return, and they were happy to do it. Maybe, But like you're not starting. You're not starting any of these guys in week 4. I understand there's a lot of injuries out there, but it's still not a bye week. There are people on your waiver wire better than any of these people. Dotson's been targeted on 5% of his routes the past 2 weeks.
Here's what I would say with this in the Philadelphia pass game. If there is one game that you want to live bet props, watch Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, watch the first drive, just see who is out there for Philadelphia and who is getting targets. And off of that, because that, like, Jahan Dotson, you can't start him because just the median outcome is really low. But there are worlds where Jahan Dotson gets 75 yards today, when the expectation is a lot lower than that. So that's one to really pay attention to. But for fantasy purposes and starting someone, like, you can't trust any of these guys outside of Dallas Goedert. Lane Johnson being out is a huge deal as well. Jalen Hurts, he goes down in terms of productivity without Lane Johnson.
I think they try to run Jalen Hurts a little bit more. I agree with you. They lean on Saquon. You'll see some Will Shipley and Kenneth Gainwell as well. I think it's going to be Goddard in the run game here in an ugly game against the Buccaneers, where the over/under is 42. So they're not expecting a ton of scoring in this game.
How about run game with the Bucs this week? Rashad White battling food poisoning, trending towards playing. Bucky Irving has been the breakout as the secondary guy in the Bucs backfield, averaging over 6 yards a carry. They're saying that he's going to get increased playing time, hasn't outright taken the job. How do you read which guy to play out of that Bucs backfield, Matthew?
I think you're still starting Rashad White, but hopefully neither. And hopefully you've rostered Bucky Irving. Like, we've been talking about Bucky Irving since the preseason. I believe there will come a day, and I believe that day will happen sooner than later, when Bucky Irving takes over this backfield, but it doesn't seem like that's yet. It may happen today just because you mentioned Rashad White has an illness, and so maybe they use that as an excuse to get Irving more work. He's been much more productive, averaging 6.2 yards per carry. Rashad White, 2.1. Again, Rashad White would be better standing up and holding the football on his helmet and falling forward than he would be actually running into the line, because he's done that. Bucky Irving's led the team in rushing all 3 games so far this year, but they use White more in the passing game. Honestly, listen, in an ideal world, you're not starting Rashad White. I don't love any of these guys here, but just for whatever it's worth, I have Bucky Irving at 32. I have Rashad White at 24. So just so you know where I sort of have those guys. Like, I don't have a huge difference between them, but I do have White higher at the moment.
Yep. The Eagles as well, their run defense has been pretty solid so far. We saw how they bottled up Alvin Kamara, who had run riot over the league in the first 2 weeks, and the Eagles secondary is still the weakness. Think about what happens against the Packers in Brazil. I know it was a weird one. Think about how Kirk Cousins marched down the field at the end of Monday Night Football as well. And so I think that this could be a passing game for the Bucs, and it's Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, as opposed to the Rams.
Question here from Trevor K on YouTube, hashtag FF Pregame, Braylon Allen, Bucky Irving, Jacoby Myers, or Juwan Jennings?
I get all the questions, and certainly it's really tough to bench Juwan Jennings after what he did last week, but as you heard George talk about at the top of the show, we expect Debo back, we expect Kittle back, Ayuk's going to be out there, Jordan Mason. So this is going to sound weird, guys, but I'm going with Jacoby Myers.
That's what I was saying.
Devontae Adams isn't going to play today. We're not scared about Cleveland, really. And Gardner Minshew is on a short leash. You know what I mean? Aiden O'Connell came in last week. So Gardner Minshew, I think it's going to be. And if I'm Cleveland, I'm going to try to focus on Brock Bowers.
I think you go
Jacoby Myers.
I think you go Jacoby Myers with whatever quarterback they got in there, just because of the expected opportunity that he will have with Devontae Adams out.
Well, I'm a little scared of Cleveland still, just not kind of hiding behind the door type scared of Cleveland. They still have a good defense, but just not the unit that it was last year.
Yeah, and I feel better about the fact the game is in Las Vegas. It's on the turf indoors, so you feel better about that.
All aboard. Final game, we got an undefeated, the 3-0 Buffalo Bills, and a few strange lines this week. This was one of them. They're at Baltimore. Baltimore favored by 2.5. The 1-2 Ravens. The over-under is 46.5. James Cook has been on fire to start the season for the Bills. Can he stay hot against the Ravens and their number 1 ranked rush defense?
They've been terrific against the run so far this year, allowing the 5th fewest fantasy points to running backs, just 2.6 yards per carry to opposing running backs. That's best in the NFL. They're giving up just 50 yards a game. I have James Cook, guys, as a top 10 play this week. I'm at running back 10, and here's why. First off, the goal line usage. He's already got 5 goal-to-go rushing attempts this season. that's basically halfway to what he did last year. Like, they're using him when they get in close. It's not all just Josh Allen, or they're not bringing in a bigger back like a Ray Davis or something like that. They are trusting James Cook when they get into the goal line. So I think he's got a decent chance to get into the end zone tonight. He's also, by the way, part of the passing game. He's got almost a 13% target share. He's third on the team in terms of targets. He's had at least 30 receiving yards in 2 of the 3 games that he's played. So even though they're so good against the run, he's out there playing a ton of snaps. They're not scared to use him in the passing game, dumping it off to him. So I just think the expected usage here for James Cook and his talent keep him elevated as a low-end RB1 for me tonight.
Yeah, look, it's going to be tough to run. The longest run that the Ravens have given up this season was 21 yards, and that was Xavier Worthy, week 1 on the reverse.
Right.
Their next longest run given up is 8 yards. So like you said, Matthew, James Cook is their second leading receiver on the team right now. Baltimore is great against the run, but they've allowed the 6th most receiving yards to running backs, 45.5 receiving yards to running backs per game. So if James Cook is going to get it, that's how he should, can, and probably will.
Yep. I do think with the Ravens' run defense, a lot of it is that they played the Cowboys, whose rushing offense hasn't been good in 2 years, basically.
Yep.
They played Zamir White and Alexander Mattison. That's a
Whatever.
disaster. And then the Chiefs, who in theory should have a good run game, but haven't really been super efficient in the past couple of seasons as well. So I think that colors things a little bit. The Ravens weren't an amazing rush defense in terms of efficiency last year. Still think that they're a solid unit, but I think this is more about just the added usage that Cook is getting in terms of his touchdown equity in the red zone. I think that helps, but I expect that this is probably going to be more of a Josh Allen game. The good thing is that Cook, because of his skill set and because of his work as a pass catcher, he can still feast if it is a Josh Allen game.
Yeah, he's still getting a lot of high leverage touches. Conversely, Mark Andrews, panic button.
I wish Dalvin Cook was still in the Ravens, and we'd have a Cook brothers, and you
A
cut to
cook-off?
you cut to the mom in the stands, and she's wearing Dalvin on one,
split,
and it's split.
It's tough we won't get that
Yeah,
shot.
it's a shame.
I don't know how my Sunday night will
yeah,
endure.
it's
I
such
might
a-
give the game a miss.
It's such a shame.
Watch
Such a
industry.
shame.
Yeah.
Are we?
But we should have to pretend that because Dalvin was like on the practice squad.
Yes.
Like the mom would have to pretend, like it just would be funny.
Would be great.
Yeah, it'd be great. Great. You have to pull like a Donna Kelsey out there. All right. Anyway, the other big storyline I think for this game, and you heard me talk about it at the top of the show, in terms of my storyline, elite tight ends, Mark Andrews, 33% of the snaps in week 3. He ran 6 total routes. He's had an under 10% target share so far this year. He's currently 5th on the team in targets. Like Rashad Bateman and Justice Hill getting more targets than Mark Andrews as well. Through 3 games, he is tight end 30 on a points per game basis. I'm at tight end 14 for the week. He moves up to tight end 11 with some of the guys being ruled out, and obviously Jake Ferguson I've already played on Thursday, but he started the week as my tight end 14. I think if you're starting Mark Andrews, and hopefully you aren't, like I benched him for Zach Ertz in a league. I will tell you that right now.
I'll take Zach Ertz over him.
I benched him for Zach Ertz in a league. But if you are starting Mark Andrews, if you're just sort of stuck and you don't have anyone else out there, I think the only thing you can hang your hat on is that hopefully the noise has gotten, like Matt Milano's not going to play for the Bills. The Bills have struggled against tight ends so far this year, and there's been a lot of noise about the lack of Mark Andrews' usage. Harbaugh was actually asked about that. He was just like, I didn't realize he played. So it feels like maybe there might be a concerted effort to try to get Andrews going, but literally nothing we've seen so far this year gives you confidence that Mark Andrews can do anything tonight, guys.
Didn't the Ravens' third-string tight end have more plays than
Charlie
Andrews?
Kohler.
Charlie Kohler had a big play last week.
Yeah, it's been brutal. It's been awful. It's been horrific, horrendous.
If you're a Mark Andrews owner, good time for shot. These are the predictions
Yeah,
you feel
buddy.
real confident in. Matthew, kick us off.
Oh, okay, sure. Let me figure out which one let me find my.
There's only 3.
Okay, I know, but I just got to make sure I got the right one. Listen, and then you get drunker progressively, throughout the day, and then it's like
That's how
you're
this
like
works.
searching. So you got to do it. All right. Did this last week, came through in a big way. So I'm going back to this well. 100 yards and 2 touchdowns for the number 1 wide receiver facing my Commanders tonight. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. in the 4:00 window. Every single game this year, my Commanders have allowed at least 22 fantasy points to an opposing wide receiver. I say that happens again today. Give me 100 yards and 2 tutties for Marvin Harrison Jr.
All right.
Very good, Matthew. I will take the Commanders, Cardinals. The total goes over 49.0. This one should start with a 5, I think. Everyone knows that the Cardinals are great offense, very suspect defense. But with the Commanders, I believe in this offense. And I also believe in how bad the defense is. But on a per-drive basis, the Commanders have been elite. It wasn't just the Bengals game. They were moving the ball very effectively in the first 2 games as well. So give me the total over 49.
All right, cheers. All mine are going to be quarterback today. I'm going to start off with Matthew's old ride or die, Jalen Hurts, who without A.J. Brown, without Devontae Smith, will have at least 273 total yards, 3 total touchdowns. Check this out. The Bucs have allowed the most rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks this year with 3. The next best is 1. They've allowed the second most rushing yards to quarterbacks, 46.5 per game. Jalen Hurts this season is averaging almost 48 rushing yards per game. We just talked about how he's going to have to run a little more this game. He's going to get there. Him, Saquon, and Dallas Goedert.
I like that.
Love to hear that.
Yeah. I have a lot of Jalen Hurts this year, so I could use that, Lawrence.
273.
Big time.
Like it.
For my guy, I wish we had a purple sombrero on the wall instead of the helmet. And this is in honor of Aaron Jones. Revenge game. First trip back to Lambeau. He's going to go over 100 total yards and a touchdown. They asked him, is he going to do the Lambeau leap on the road? He said, 100%, and I got to find a little pocket of Vikings fans if I'm going to do that. I think he's going to have a big game today for the Vikes, continue his hot start to the season.
100%. Free Aaron Jones. Hashtag free Aaron Jones. I don't understand how the Vikings are underdogs in that game either, by the way. It's a weird one. Hobble Jordan Love going up against a undefeated Vikings team, but whatever. Weird lines, so we'll find this out. My second shot. That's right. You know what I'm going to do? Yeah. I'm going to keep pounding.
Yeah, I thought so.
Keep pounding. That's right. Yes, Andy Dalton and Deontay Johnson both finished top 10 at their positions this week at home against Cincinnati. I know Deontay Johnson was on the injury report a little bit, but that's all right. He's good to go, and the Red Rifle is going to find him quite a bit. Let's be clear about this. You saw it earlier in the show, Andy Dalton walking in, signing autographs. You remember the last time Andy Dalton signed autographs? Exactly. He's red hot. He doesn't want to go back to obscurity. This is a revenge game for him. Who's he looking for? The guy's got an over 30% target share. The Cincinnati Bengals traveling on a short week. It's a bad defense. And Andy Dalton and Deontay Johnson are going to exploit them in a big way to both finish top 10 at their respective positions today.
Okay, very good, Matthew. I'm taking Caleb Williams, George's man, George the Greek's man. Caleb Williams over.
Forgot about George the Greek.
George the Greek. George the self-creator of his own nicknames.
Yes.
George the Chicago Bears fan. Taking Caleb over 220.5 passing yards. Rams defense is very porous, very suspect in the secondary. And for all the consternation about Caleb Williams and that he hasn't been Jaden Daniels so far, this is not a Bryce Young, CJ Stroud situation.
No, I agree.
Caleb Williams has shown plenty of flashes. I think it's a huge positive that he's just able to put in the volume that he did last week, going well north of 300 yards. So I think he goes over 220.
Gets Keenan Allen back today, too.
Gets Keenan Allen back today, too.
Yeah.
That's definitely a good thing. My next quarterback, I got faith in 5, Mr. Jaden Daniels. Jay, you just said that game is going to go over 50.
Come on into the water. The water's warm.
Jaden Daniels.
Jump on in.
Today, at least 281 total yards and 4 total touchdowns against these Cardinals. This why. Look, their last 2 quarterbacks the Cardinals went against, Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, those are statues. Josh Allen, on the other hand, was quarterback 1 against this Cardinals defense. So I got Jaden Daniels to go off again.
Oh, boy, you know who's facing Jaden Daniels today? It's not just the Arizona Cardinals. It's slap you like a grape.
Yes.
Let's go. Let's go live at noon on the cock. Jaden Daniels, let's go. Let's go.
What I love about FF pregame is the segue from Jaden Daniels, 280-plus yards, 4 touchdowns, to me doing this niche prop with Roschon Johnson over 10 and a half.
281.
281. To Roschon Johnson going over 10.5 receiving yards. Bears saying he's going to be a bigger part of the offense. Had 32 receiving yards last week. Last season, he topped this number, 10.5, 5 of his last 8 games for the Bears. So he's a good receiving back, going to be a bigger part of the offense. This seems extremely low. It seems like the line should be closer to, say, 16.5. So if you're really getting down and dirty with those props, look at Roschon Johnson over 10.5 receiving yards, and it's not even deserving of a logo because it's so far into the
I
into
stole
the
your
depths.
Bears. I stole the Bears.
There you go.
Agree.
My last shot. I'm starting to feel it now. I'm a little buzzed. George Kittle. I'm going to wait for the graphic to change. There you go. George Kittle finishes as the top 3 tight end this week against the New England Patriots. First off, so we get Debo back. I think they all sort of cancel each other out here. Let's be clear. Not hard to finish as a top 3 tight end. The production has been so brutal, obviously. Trey McBride's not going to play. Sam Laporta will play, but he's a little bit banged up. Kelsey and Andrews haven't been great so far this year. We'll see about Kincaid. Hopefully, I think he has a nice game tonight. But ultimately, George Kittle facing a Patriots defense that allowed the 6th most yards to opposing tight ends. They're banged up at the linebacker spot as well. So I think he's been a little bit quiet, but they welcome George Kittle back. I think he gets into the end zone. Brock Purdy, the George Kittle connection happens today. George Kittle finishes as the top 3 fantasy tight end today. Wheels up for my man Kittle.
Okay, all right. Wheels. That's strange.
What you sipping on, dog?
Did that not put the same stuff in yours?
Little something.
Because I enjoy my shots here on the show.
Wheels down for Alvin Kamara. Going under 16.5 rushing attempts. He got banged up in the Eagles game. He didn't practice on Wednesday. He got back at practice, but dealing with a little hip thing. And I just think that this workload is unsustainable.
Yeah.
They can't keep running him 20 times a game. Like, he's 29 years old. He's never dealt with this workload before. Also, Falcons have an awesome rushing defense. They've been able to generate pressure. I think it's going to be a Derek Carr game as opposed to a AK game on the ground. So give me Kamara under 16.5 rushing attempts.
All right. My last one, I'm going to bring it to prime time right here on NBC, right? Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is Mr. Prime Time. When he's the quarterback, the Ravens have won 80% of the time. So I'm going to go with, and in those games, he averages 281 yards, 2 touchdowns. So I'm going to go with 308 total yards and 3 touchdowns versus the Bills tonight. Comes into week 4 as a top 10 passer, top 8 rusher, and he's the quarterback 3 in fantasy right now. I think Josh and Lamar light it up, but I'm going with Lamar today. 3 TDs, let's get it.
Okay. So Lamar Jackson missed the prime time? Never won a big
Prime
playoff
time.
game.
Mr. Prime Time.
Okay.
You know what you forgot?
Check the MVP game with Brock Purdy last
wearing
year,
a-
Mr.
you're wearing
Prime
a-
Time.
You're wearing a Colorado Buffalo T-shirt.
Yeah, this is the team that Travis Hunter plays for.
No, I understand,
Coach
but
Prime.
their coach is sort of
Time.
known as Prime Time.
Time.
It feels like
prime
that.
time, George the Greek. What's going on?
I just feel like Mr. Primetime's already been taken, and you're like, well, is Lawrence aware of that? And you're like, and then you watch what he's wearing, and you're like, he should probably be aware of that.
You know more.
Lamar's 0-1
you
in
know-
prime time this year. It's all right.
It's all right.
What Lawrence forgot to say, Lamar Jackson loses 20% of the time in prime time because I got the
That
Bills.
is very true.
How
That
are
is
the
very
Bills
true.
2.5
Are you
point?
Mr. Prime Time
No,
if
you
you're
can't
all?
miss the prime time.
How are the Bills
Didn't make
2.5
a
point
Super Bowl.
underdogs?
He
They're
about
not-
to show you tonight. He
Okay.
gonna show you why.
Bills just won by 1 million last week against the Jags. They're 3-0. Their offensive has been electric. Not only are they going to beat the Ravens to get to 4-0, they are going to win outright as well. So the Bills, my pick, Josh Allen, MVP favorite after 4 weeks.
All right.
Head to head, I like it.
Yeah.
Let's dance, Lawrence. All right, coming up here on FF Pregame, we're getting into start sitting. And
Oh, I
this
like
tweet?
this question.
Billy D. Williams
Not me.
joined the show. Hashtag FF Pregame, and as always, featured on the main screen.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, look at that. See, we're on the main screen. You got Fantasy Football Now, my old show on the smaller screen.
Billy D.
That's fine. Shout out to my guy Daniel Dopp. One day they'll let Daniel Dopp sit on the desk. Poor Daniel. Poor Daniel. Daniel's one of my best friends. I love Daniel Dopp. There we go. Shout out
to
Secret
Billy
Squirrel.
D.
Inactives when we return. 41-12. This from the New Orleans Saints as we're getting ready pregame. Saints on the road at the Falcons, 3-point underdogs as they head to Atlanta.
Yeah, he definitely looked healthy there. Chris Olave, the way he stepped, he definitely looked like a guy that is
Ready
not
to go.
have any hamstring
Wheels
issue.
up.
Yeah, wheels up. There we go.
Notable Week 4 injury updates. All these players active. The only one out, Joe Mixon. Keenan Allen making his return. Deontay Johnson giving it a go. Jordan Love returns for the Packers, and Alvin Kamara, who had been banged up this week, will be in the backfield for the Saints. As we turn the dial to the late games, Justin Herbert trying to give it a go with that ankle sprain that he re-injured last week against the Steelers, had to leave in the second half. That matchup has the Chiefs this week. Raheem Mostert, questionable, and Deebo Samuel has told reporters that he will play, so we anticipate to see him back in the fold for the 49ers. Herbert definitely concerns me after re-injuring it last week and once again hobbling out there.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this. I mean, like, White and Irving. I do think Cam Akers, you see it there, like, again, Mixon's going to be out there, so if we're looking at sort of deeper league ads, Cam Akers, we're going to talk about Cordero Patterson here in a little bit. You mentioned Roshan Johnson. Akers would be my favorite of the guys listed there. It's worth noting about Emmanuel Wilson, though. Again, with Jordan Love a little bit banged up, they're using Wilson more and more. Again, he's my running back 41. You see sort of the ranks there as well. But, I think those guys are sort of interesting. So, to me, the answer here is Cam Akers. Again, now that we know officially Joe Mixon is out, Akers should get a pretty heavy workload. And, matchup that, I don't know, that Houston is at home, so you're not really that scared about this matchup. Again, I know Akers hasn't been amazing and so far, but he's just going to get so much work. I don't know.
He got the touchdown last week.
Well, and Dameon Pierce out again.
Dameon Pierce out again. Like Jacksonville, like they're almost 6-point favorites at home. They're 5.5-point favorites at home to the Jaguars. I get it. The Jaguars just been bad defensively. They're worse in the passing defense than they are in the run, but I think just volume of work gets you there with Akers as a reasonable upside flex. That would be my choice here.
How about we got Luis Gonzalez, guy with the game-winning hit.
I was going to say,
Game 7 of the World Series.
World Series.
Yeah, exactly. Appreciate you
watching
watching.
there. So deep wide receiver.
There is life after game winners in the World Series.
Well, waiver ads. These are wide receivers available in over 50% of leagues. We've hit on Jacoby Myers. Darnell Mooney has been a big part of the Falcons' offense the last couple weeks. Is Allen Lazard going to continue to be a thing?
So he's tied for Lazard's tied for the team lead in red zone target, has an 87% route participation. We talked about how we expect Patrick Surtain to be all over Garrett Wilson as well. Mooney, by the way, has a 29% target share over the past 2 weeks. He's averaging over 16 fantasy points per game. Also playing against him in a couple leagues. Well, you have him, right? Somebody has him.
Not me, man.
All right, well, another league I'm playing against him. I know he's going to go off. And because that's what happens. And then, listen, with Devontae Adams out, that's a 25% target share that gets freed up for the Raiders that we expect Jacoby Myers, who's had a bit of a connection, certainly last year with Aiden O'Connell, but, seems to start to develop a little bit of one with Gardner Minshew as well.
You really covered that very well,
Yeah,
man.
thank you very much. Good. A lot of people wondering, why are Jay and Lawrence on the show? And it's right. It's for a commentary.
Let's talk about
like
my man
that.
Gino.
Just to be like, hey, okay.
From Johnny Garantano, hashtag FF pregame standard flex, Kincaid, Scary Terry, Jacoby Myers. Scary Terry went off last week, 4 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown.
You guys want to
What
take this?
say
Go
you,
ahead.
gentlemen?
You guys
Hey,
take this.
you heard my prediction for Jaden Daniels today. I'm going with Terry McLaurin here. I think they finally got that connection going. Him with the deep ball looked great. I look for him to continue that. You talk about the matchup. You talk about the high over-under in that game. Although I get why Dalton Kincaid is in here. He finally came on last week. But
I do think he has a nice game tonight. I will say that.
Yeah, I would. But I would go with Scary Terry here.
I'd go with McLaren as well, but I think it's close. I think any of those are kind of justifiable, but I would go with McLaren. I think he's got the highest upside, and also in this situation, I still think he is the most talented player of those three, so I would defer to that.
Well, he's got the best combination of quarterback, right? I mean, Kincaid has the best quarterback, but he has the best combination of quarterback and matchup and usage. He's the number one wide receiver compared to Jacoby Myers. He's got the better quarterback than Jacoby. He's got the better matchup than Kincaid. You prefer Arizona than Baltimore. So I think just all those things combined, we all agree. Terry McLaurin is your choice there, Johnny, although I'm with Jay in that it is close. So won't hate you if you go another direction.
Quarterbacks and tight ends next. These are players, again, available in over 50% of leagues. Geno Smith has been balling out. Justin Fields, 4th straight week. He will be the starter for the Steelers. Which name do you want to highlight on this list, Matthew?
I mean, we've already talked about Zach Ertz and Andy Dalton. I'll just say this about, and we've talked about Geno, but as well. So I guess if there's one thing, I don't know. Indianapolis has allowed the 3rd most rushes of 10 or more yards. So I do think Justin Fields, who I believe is starting for
He is starting for Slap Them Like a Grape.
Slap Them Like a Grape. So Fields will likely go off. Anyway, 3rd most rushes of 10 or more yards. You expect Fields, especially with Jalen Warren out, to use his legs a little bit more. I have Geno Smith as a top 10 quarterback. He usually kills Detroit. This game was a shootout last year against the Lions as well. Again, we've talked about Ertz as well, who's actually tied for the team lead in receptions. He's got a 17% target share. Gesicki, he's my tight end 12. It's worth noting that he's got a 19% target share over the last 2 weeks, and we expect the Panthers to be able to move the ball against Cincinnati, so they should be in positive game script for the Bengals passing offense as a whole.
All right, we've added this the last couple weeks, and we've gotten off to a hot start. These are our desperation plays. Those guys in really deep, called 14, 16, 20-team leagues. Players available in over 80% of leagues. Matthew, who's your pick this week?
It's Cordero Patterson. God bless. Look, no Jalen Warren, as you mentioned. Patterson got 7 touches last week. The Colts are the 31st ranked run defense throughout this season. Only one team has given up more rushing yards per game. They don't really seem to want to have Fields throw it all that much. And so going up against the Colts, I do think on the road at Indianapolis, they're going to want to establish the run, which is what Arthur Smith likes to do. So you'll see a lot of Najee Harris today. You'll see some Justin Fields. But I do think Patterson finds his way to 12 or so touches in a great matchup. Arthur Smith loves him some Cordero Patterson. They were together in Atlanta as well. Brought him with him to Pittsburgh. That's my desperation play.
Okay, my desperation play, and it is quite desperate because this guy's done nothing so far this season, but Dontavian Wicks, who came into the season, there was the thought that maybe he could be the Packers' number 1, number 2 wide receiver. He had that upside. He hasn't done anything so far, but 100% of his games so far have either been in Malik Willis or in Brazil. And the Brazil game was just weird. A lot of weird aspects of that. Now he gets Jordan Love back, so I still think there is upside for Dontavian Wicks, who's still getting out there. Like, he's still playing the snaps. He just hasn't had it click for him yet. So desperation-wise, I think Dontavian Wicks still has upside.
In your pick, the last 2 weeks, has scored touchdowns.
Yes, Quentin Johnson and Mr. Naylor.
Yeah, for me, Michael Wilson last week caught 8 of 9 targets for 64 yards. He's playing 79% of the wide receiver snaps compared to Marvin Harrison's 82%. Then you look at the fact that the Commanders are the worst team against receivers in fantasy points. And then the biggest thing for me is there's no Trey McBride today, so there's going to be more to go around in an offense where Michael Wilson already kind of got going next week. So that's my desperation play.
There is Trey Tucker for the Raiders last week, 9 targets, 7 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown. No Devontae Adams this week. A good chance that he's able to have another week with, call it 60-plus yards, 7-plus targets for the Raiders. We got him at wide receiver number 46, but could be a good 1 week off the bench type guy to toss into your lineup. Prop a Shot brought to you by DraftKings. We hit 3 out of 4 last week.
Yeah, we did. You mean by the passing? 3 out of 4 to the passing. The proper shots overall, we did better than that. We did even better than that.
Go on, Matthew. You got the
Tipped at the line of the scrimmage.
Justin Fields baseball.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
After you.
George. All right, go ahead, George.
Yeah.
There we go.
George
Nice.
getting way too close.
Way too close.
Yeah,
George is basically laying it in there.
Yeah.
This is kind of
Like a little
outrageous.
finger roll.
Andre's
Yeah,
rubbing
exactly.
the win.
Exactly. A little Clyde Drexler going on up there.
Don't hate, appreciate, guys.
Yeah.
Come on. All right. First, Prop a Shot.
Oh, gosh.
And, of course, we got to go Anthony Richardson out of the gates, passing yards. This is a low one. Right now, the market's set at 182.5, Jay.
I think it's too low. I don't feel super confident in it, but I'm taking you over. Quarterback in a dome, underdog. I think he'll have to be dropping back a fair amount against the Steelers, so don't feel amazing about it, but I will take the over.
Different line for Saquon Barkley. Rushing and receiving yards. This is triple digits, 104.5, Lawrence.
Well, that's interesting. I'm taking over. You know why? Because he averages 134 scrimmage yards per game.
Damn.
So, yeah, and the Bucs allow 8 catches and 70 receiving yards to backs every game. So, I'm going to hit the over on Saquon.
Big numbers. Bijan Robinson for the Falcons. They're a home favorite. Rushing attempts, 16.5, Matthew.
I'm going to take the under on this. First off, he's been under this number in 2 of the 3 games. The one game that he went over, he got 17. I mean, so he's barely gotten there. I think he's heavily involved, but it's going to be a lot more passing. This should be a low-scoring game. The over/under is 42. I think they trade possessions back and forth, so I don't know that there's a lot of long drives here. Give me the under on 16.5 rushing attempts for Bijan Robinson.
I have failed betting this over previous weeks because Tyler Algier, sneaky, will get 5 to 7 carries and really eats into the total number
it's
for
annoying.
Bijan. Brandon Ayuk. Is this the week he's going to look like the Brandon Ayuk from a year ago, Jay? That number currently set at 56.5 receiving yards.
I don't think so. I think he's going to get the Christian Gonzalez treatment. We've got Debo and George Kittle coming back. I think Juwan Jennings, he has just earned more time, more snaps, more targets based on his performance last week. So, I mean, it's such a low number for such a talented player, but need to see it from Ayuk first, so give me the under.
It seems like a low number. Passing attempts for Patrick Mahomes, we're at 34.5. What are you feeling here, Lawrence?
It's kind of a low number, and it's a number I'm going to go under on. He's only hit this number in 1 of 3 games. You look at the game today against the Chargers where they're 7-point favorites. The over/under's 41 points there, so I'm going to go under. They're not that type of offense right now.
This next one, I think I know where Matthew's going to go. Aaron Jones, rushing yards,
Over.
16.5.
Well, I didn't need to hear the number. I didn't need to hear the number. So it's 16.5, sure. Give me the over. First off, he's had at least 94 rushing yards in 5 of his last 6 games dating back to last season. Packers have allowed at least 100 rushing yards to a running back in 2 out of 3 games so far this season. It's his homecoming. He's going to put on the purple sombrero and jump into the stands. Free Aaron Jones. Free Aaron Jones. Give me the over on 60.5. He made the love list this week. He's a top 10 play for me. He would have been one of my shot for shots, but George stole him from me. and by stole them, I just mean George actually responded to the email in a timely manner, as opposed to me, who's like, oh yeah, I meant to respond to that and I didn't. So, yeah, give me the over on Aaron Jones.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, I
Didn't want to
understand.
besmirch my good name.
Yeah, no, I'll besmirch it, but just, there's plenty of ways to besmirch it up, but that one's genuine. That one,
This next number
you didn't do anything wrong in that one.
impacted with Tank Dell being out. Stephon Diggs, receiving yards, it's at 61.5.
Yeah, I'm taking the over here because of the absence of Dell, because of how the Jags got lit up by Josh Allen last week. And the main thing for me, 12 targets for Stephon Diggs last week, which shows that there is a bit of rapport building with CJ Stroud. So give me the over.
Deontay Johnson, receiving yards, 62.5 for the Panthers, Lawrence.
I'm going over. I would even take an alt line with this one. Cincinnati has allowed a receiver to go past this number the past 2 games. That was Rashee Rice and Terry McLaurin. Well, those are their wide receiver ones. Deontay Johnson and the Panthers, he's their wide receiver one. He got going last week. Let me get the over on that.
I think this offensive rookie of the year race, obviously Malik Neighbors has looked great. And Marvin Harrison Jr., the last 2 weeks, looking like the guy we
Luke
expected.
McCaffrey coming on. So,
It's that one slipped my
between the
mind.
3 of them, it
Ben
feels like,
Sinnott.
it feels like it's neck and neck and neck. Those
Skip
3
right
guys.
past Jaden Daniels. It's Luke McCaffrey, who you should
Sure.
really watch out for on the
Yeah.
Commanders. So MHJ receptions,
Over.
5.5.
Oh, that's the number. Fine. It's over. Look, Marvin Harrison Jr. has a 35% target share. He's got a 35% target share over the last 2 weeks. The Commanders have allowed at least 6 receptions to an opposing wide receiver in every single game so far this year. So Marvin Harrison Jr., again, no Trey McBride in this game. You'll see some Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch, the human Dortch, but it's going to be all about 18. Give me the over 5.5 receptions for Marvin Harrison Jr. on his way to 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in what should be hopefully a 1-point loss to my Commanders, 55-56.
Going with the Lawrence, very specific prediction
That's
there.
a great number, actually. I'm hoping that, too.
That would be fun, right?
I'll take 46-45, too.
You're not
Either
too
one.
greedy.
Yeah,
I
I ain't
respect
too
that.
greedy. I'll take that,
Last
too.
3 players, and this line has dropped with the emergence of Braylon Allen over the first 3 weeks. Breece Hall, rushing yards, 66.5.
Yeah, I'm taking the over, and I think a big reason why he will go over is because he's had 10 days off. And I think that some of his reduced load against the Pats was because of the short break. So give me the over on Breece Hall, over a touchdown favorite. Think he'll be running plenty.
Okay, this is the no-brainer of no-brainers with this next one. Lawrence Lamar Jackson, passing rushing yards, 268.5.
415.5.
Again, in these games, in the regular season, Jay, he averages 281 of these things we call yards. So I'm going over.
All right, there you go. Okay. Going over for Mr. Primetime.
Prime
As
time.
is well known.
Yes,
on
it's
the
well
streets.
known on the
Josh
streets.
Allen, 2 yards less for his total pass and rushing yards, 266.5.
I'm also going over. Look, he's been over this number in 2 of the 3 games he's played this year. He didn't do it against Miami because he didn't need to. I mean, they just blew him out so hard. I don't think they blow out the Ravens tonight. Baltimore has allowed at least 267 yards, total yards to a quarterback in every game this season. And they haven't played a quarterback as talented as Josh Allen. I'm going over 266.5.
Stick around later in the show. You're going to get our touchdown parlay. We're due to hit one of these weeks. And don't forget DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns each and every week. New
Yeah,
customers
buddy.
can bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use the promo code Barry when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook.
The
Crown is yours. Rankings when we're back on FF Pregame, and we got Breece in the house.
Taking
Certified
selfies.
good dude. Thumbs up from the New York
See, he
Jets.
handed the phone back. I wasn't sure if Breece had asked the fans for a selfie or if the fans had asked Breece for a selfie, but it seems like the fans wanted a selfie with Breece.
He's a good dude.
So
He
he's going
returned the
around,
phone.
He's going around.
Yeah.
He's taking selfies with him.
Man of the people,
Man
Breece
of the
Hall.
people. That kid's waving, but it's a selfie, kid. Like all you're gonna do is make the photo blurry.
Read the room.
For the love of God.
Tonight on Sunday Night Football, Josh Allen and the undefeated Buffalo Bills on the road against Lamar Jackson and the 1-2 Ravens. Catch the Sunday Night Showdown, the Ravens, home favorites. That's tonight, 7 Eastern on NBC and Peacock. We're anticipating a high-scoring affair in Baltimore. To Matthew's top 10 quarterback rankings. And, of course, we got to touch on your ride or die to be compliant here on FF
Yes,
Pregame.
obviously.
Kyler Murray,
Obvi.
number
That's
2.
what the kids say. Obvi.
They do.
Yeah. Oh, sure. You don't have any kids, Lawrence.
He's got 2.
I know, but they don't talk to him. Have you ever met them? Because I have. They have.
Good stat
one of them.
correction.
Yeah, no, listen. Like, if you've ever interacted with Lawrence and his entire family, which I have many times, like they gravitate to his wife, their mom,
Sure.
who is lovely. You
Thankfully.
you outkicked your coverage in a significant way. And so watch this. What are your kids' names?
Hold on.
Hang on, see?
Let me text first.
You see? That's what I'm just saying.
Oh, dear.
Okay, that's great Kyler Murray
No,
analysis.
but
How about Lamar
honestly,
Jackson?
I'll tell you this though. Lawrence is still better dad than Jay. You ever watch Jay's Instagrams? Like the kids are playing on shelves, they're betting on games.
That's how you end it.
They're juggling knives.
You have no idea. You have no idea the chaos that goes on at Jay's house. Like it's serious. Kids are on like completely
it's a lot
unsafe.
of-
Lighting cigarettes from the stove
Exactly.
and all that type
Yeah,
of
no, it is
we
chaos.
run a tight ship over there in the Jackson household.
Yeah,
there.
exactly
No
right.
jumping on the couches.
No, 1,000%.
keep their shoes off inside, everything. Okay, Kyler Murray, number 2. How is he not number 1 going against the Commanders?
Well, he probably should be. I mean, but Josh Allen is Josh Allen. Look, here's Cardinals have the highest implied team total in Week 4. So far this year, Commanders have given up 24.4 fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Every quarterback, literally every quarterback that has faced my beloved Commanders has finished as a top 7 quarterback that week, and that includes Daniel Jones. So, they're 31st in passing defense. No team in the NFL has allowed more passing touchdowns than the Washington Commanders. My ride or die rides tonight, again, or this afternoon, in a thrilling 1-point loss to my Commanders. Like 4 or 5 touchdowns and a thrilling 1-point loss to my Commanders. That's what I'm rooting for.
I like
Very
the
good.
4 or 5. Ballparking. Lamar
Gotta
Jackson.
go quick.
We've talked a lot about Lamar Jackson. If you could guarantee me health, I would predict that Lamar Jackson would be the number 1 player in fantasy this year. And the reason why, defense not as good as it was last year, offensive line not as good as it was last year. He's had 2 games this year where he's carried the ball 14 and 16 times. He only carried the ball 14 times once all of last season. So I am expecting a big game from Mr. Primetime tonight.
At 11 through 20, if you have a wandering eye at the quarterback position, then the Red Rifle certainly caught your attention last week. Andy Dalton.
We talked about this earlier in the show. Bengals are allowing touchdown passes at the 7th highest rate this season. He's made 2 starts in his career for the Carolina Panthers, and the Red Rifle has at least 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in both of them. I am at QB 15 this week. I like him, especially knowing that Deontay Johnson's going to play today.
I don't know how I can tee Lawrence up here on Sam Darnold after he said we got to bench the
He
guy.
slandered his good name, previously good name.
Well, he's got the red rifle. I got the red bazooka right here in Sam Darnold. Now, I talked about Sam Darnold
It's a new one.
last week.
I don't think it's going to last. You don't have to write it down.
It's like George the Greek.
It's definitely not going to last. It's definitely not going to last. Last week I spoke. I felt good about him last week going to the Houston, Texas matchup. But Green Bay, a little bit better fantasy-wise against quarterback. They're ranked 13th best. So I would say just keep that in mind. Green Bay does lead the league in interceptions. But like it just happened like last night, Jair Alexander is out for the Green Bay Packers. So there you go.
From Travis Martin on YouTube, hashtag FF Pregame. I like that you're giving us the scoring in the league. 4-point pass, touchdowns, choose 2. Love, Darnold, Stafford, Purdy.
Purdy and Love for me here. It's close. I'm nervous about Stafford on the road at Chicago, obviously. We just talked about Darnold. We like him a lot, but Purdy is home favorite against a banged-up Patriots defense. So now it's Love versus Darnold, and so I get that question. Just feel a little bit better about
Love at home.
Yeah, Love at home than Darnold. I also think, by the way, as we talked about Aaron Jones, like I don't think the Packers are gonna be able to lean on the run game the way that the Vikings will be able to lean on theirs.
Yep. I think
So
that's
that's a close one.
Yeah.
It's a coin flip.
Stafford's the man out.
Yes. We're definitely saying Purdy, and then it's a coin flip between who you like in that
Go with your heart,
Packers
Travis.
Vikings game.
My heart would say Jordan Love.
I'd say choose
just
Love.
more upside. Yeah. I think also Love could have played last week, it seemed like, and they gave him the extra week, so relatively confident in his health.
That's the other thing is like Malik Willis has looked so good. Like if they thought there was any concern about Love, they could just hold him back because again, Willis is give credit where credit's due. Malik Willis has looked really good, but obviously they feel good about Jordan Love.
Running back rankings 1 through 10, and in the commercial break, I was just hitting on the Aaron Jones rushing prop at 59.5, taking the over. His receiving prop 20.5, taking the over. Am I onto something, or am I crazy here, man?
He's averaging 108 scrimmage yards per game, George. He's averaging 18 touches a game, so the workload has been there. Almost a 20% target share for Jones this season, which is second most among running backs. Oh, by the way, the Packers have allowed the 5th most receiving yards to opposing running backs. I'm at running back 8 today after you take out the Thursday night games. Again, I think he makes the Lambeau leap. I like the over. Free Aaron Jones. Free Aaron Jones. These are the kind of things that happen when you free Aaron Jones, people.
Yes, indeed.
Damn
yes,
right.
Indeed.
Kyron Williams looked good last week against the 49ers. Stingy Bears defense this week, Lawrence.
Yeah, look, they're a little more stingy, but Jonathan Taylor went for 110 and 2 touchdowns against them. That was good for RB5. They're allowing the 9th most points in fantasy to running backs. And Kyron Williams, who everyone was scared to draft when they said he would be the punt returner, he's played 90% of the snaps 2 out of the 3 games. The other game he played 79%, but that's because they was getting blown out by the Cardinals. So gotta love Kyron Williams this week and going forward.
Drop down 10, 11 through 20, and of course Matthew has his eyes on the Commanders running back. Brian Robinson Jr. at 14 at Arizona. Eckler being out, will that impact his workload at all?
I would think it would increase it somewhat. You'll see some Jeremy McNichols, but honestly, it should be a heavy workload for Brian Robinson. He's my running back 14. I like his chances to have a big game against a Cardinals defense that's bottom 10 in terms of most fantasy points allowed to running backs. Brian Robinson, by the way, top 5 among running backs in goal-to-go rushes this season. That may come into play later in the show. By the way, teams facing Arizona averaging the 3rd most running back rushes this season. In order to keep Jaden Daniels in that RPO active, you need to have Robinson have a big game as well. That's one of the things that makes Jaden Daniels in that RPO so effective is there's the threat of Robinson taking it as well, who's been really good so far this year. Yeah, he's my running back 14. Again, with Eckler out, you expect more work for him on the road in a high-scoring game.
Jay, last couple weeks, Josh Jacobs with Malik Willis, boomer bust, had that monster game 2 weeks ago. Last week, kind of overshadowed, only had, 45, 46 rushing yards. What do you anticipate with Jordan Love being back under center?
I don't know, and that's the question with Josh Jacobs is that he had the 30-plus carries 2 weeks ago, but then last week Emmanuel Wilson steals 12 carries off of him. I've always got the sense that LaFleur wants to be more spread the workload, keep these guys fresh, but that didn't happen when Josh Jacobs got 32 carries 2 weeks ago. So I think this is going to be a very instructive week going forward for what Jacobs' usage will be like with Jordan Love back and just a bit more of a normal offense.
Question here from Henry's mustache. Nice of him to message us here on YouTube. Hashtag FF Pregame Flex. Cooper Myers or Josh Jacobs?
I got to go. Oh, boy.
Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs. Amari Cooper is really tempting after last week, but just guaranteed touches with Josh Jacobs. I think you got to go there.
Yeah.
Totally agree there. Josh Jacobs.
Cooper, then Myers.
Do you think Henry's mustache, do you think he's talking about his own mustache, or is there somebody else's mustache in his life?
He ain't talking
his
about
own
mine.
would be odds-on favorite there. Yeah.
Really?
I would think
Kind
so.
of gratuitous. Like
His ain't
Georgia
like
Creek.
mine.
Yes.
No, his ain't like this.
At 21 through 30, and Matthew, do you have no conscience? You're going to talk about Jay's guy, Najee Harris, at 21.
Well, listen. Yeah. I have. Do I have any conscience? How long have you been on the show? Please. The fact of the matter is yes. For all the annoyingness about Jay Croucher, he's a very smart man, and in this particular case, he's
the kindest thing you've ever said to him.
That's annoying.
Yes. He's going to be right about Najee Harris this week. Najee Harris is averaging over 20 touches a game. No team in the NFL has allowed more rushing yards to opposing running backs than the Indianapolis Colts, and so with Jaylen Warren out. You heard me talk about Cordero Patterson, but Najee Harris is getting the majority of work in this backfield here. So he's my running back 21. I think he's got a good shot at getting into the end zone as well. So, yeah, Najee, your guy Najee.
Best player I've ever seen.
Yeah, there you go.
At least in the top.
Since Bo Jackson.
Yeah, exactly right.
Best player named Najee you've ever seen.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Better than Najee Marshall,
Right.
the Mavericks.
It's not really Mr. Primetime. He's more like Mr. 1 o'clock. Though.
Yes.
There you go.
Mr. Early Game.
Yeah, Mr. Early
the
Game.
matinee session.
Mr. fifth broadcast window on CBS. That's what he is.
Another guy you could slot into that, DeAndre Swift, who
That's fair.
hasn't done much. And I think
Yeah.
if the Bears could null and void that contract after 3 weeks, they put that in serious consideration. Can he bounce back this week, though?
Well, earlier this week on our Keep It Open, Close It Out, I slightly kept it open because the Rams have allowed the second most rushing yards to running backs and allowed the fifth most fantasy points. But then after that show, news came out that Roschon Johnson was going to get an extended look. So we talked about it earlier. I don't know what to expect from this Bears backfield because you don't just have Swift, you don't just have Johnson, you have Khalil Herbert, who's already scored a touchdown this season. So I actually fear that DeAndre Swift could be lower than that 29th ranking that Matthew has him at. Like, it could be any one of those guys could be the top ranked Bears running back after this week.
You're basically playing spin the wheel, and any of the three could really emerge. Obviously, you got to see if you trust the coach speak when it comes to Roschon, but I don't think anyone's had more.
Well,
than 10 carries in the game.
he's gaining on Swift when it comes to running back snaps percentage. So.
And it's still a disgusting backfield when it comes to outcomes, regardless of who's in that prime position. Wide receiver ranks, and Marvin Harrison Jr., Matthew Berry at number 4 this week. And because he is facing the Washington Commanders and their secondary, which has been lit up by seemingly everyone.
Literally everyone. Yeah, so, I mean, Harrison comes in at wide receiver 4. Very good chance he finishes as wide receiver 1 for the week. Again, we've talked about this, but no team has allowed more touchdowns to opposing wide receivers than the Commanders. They've given up 9 so far. That's 3 more than any other team. 22 points to a wide receiver in every single game. That's what the Commanders have given up. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase all hit that number. I think Harrison gets there as well. He has a 34.5% target share over the last 2 weeks. He's my number 4 wide receiver. Again, monster game coming for him in a 1-point loss.
DK Metcalf had a monster game last week for the Seahawks. Had that, 75-yard receiving touchdown. What do you expect out of DK this week?
A lot. I think he's an interesting player because he's not usually talked about in that top 5, top 6 of wide receivers, more in the second tier. But in Ryan Grubb's offense, I think it's a bit more of a ceiling for DK Metcalf. I wish they would use him a bit more around the formation. He pretty much, not exclusively out wide, but only 15% of his snaps come in the slot. But we haven't really seen the Seahawks need to throw the ball that much so far, even though they did of their own accord against the Patriots in a close game. So in a game where they're underdogs in the Dome, I think it's going to be a huge game for DK Metcalf.
Wide receiver ranks 11 through 20. We had briefly touched on Diggs earlier in the show. Got the Jags this week. Texans heavy favorites at home. He's all the way up at number 12, Matthew, for this week's matchup.
Yeah, look, obviously Tank Dell being out certainly increases that. Nico Collins showed up on the injury list. He's not on it now. He's going to play, but still, maybe he's slightly less. But I think you really like this matchup against the Jaguars. Jacksonville's allowed the 7th most yards to the slot. That's where obviously Stephon Diggs plays the majority of his snaps. They're actually 30th in pass defense. They've given up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So Diggsy, my guy Diggsy, top 15 play today.
Is that one gonna last, Diggsy?
It might.
Yeah.
You know what I dig? Some digs. How about that?
I'm digging it.
You dig?
I'm digging it.
Anti
All right.
that.
I can't believe I just participated in that.
Who's my guy? You're my
Lawrence,
guy. Thank you,
keep it-
Lawrence.
Lawrence
That's
keeping
my
it
guy.
open, Jay closing it out.
I withdraw.
We'll keep it written in pencil. This is probably the first time in FF pregame history we have Zay Flowers at 14, Tyreek Hill behind him in the rankings at 16, but that perfect indictment, even with Snoop Huntley getting the start for the Finns. Not a lot of trust in Tyreek, although, Lawrence, are you saying different?
Well, it's tough to see him ranked there, but it's warranted, especially when you saw what happened with them last week. I will say that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle have better value with Tyler Huntley, but it's still going to be tough. Tennessee allows the 3rd fewest points to receivers in fantasy. Now, I don't know if that's a product of, not really having to throw the ball against Tennessee, but we're going to find out. But like I say, Snoop Huntley does have a big arm. Tyreek Hill easily could be a top 5 receiver based off of one long touchdown play. So I'll say that they have a better shot with Snoop, but you still have to temper the expectations.
We go further on down the list. Rome Odunze had his breakout game last week for the Bears. That was with Keenan Allen out, 6 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown. Allen back in the fold. They do have a banged-up Rams secondary that they're going to be looking at. So what do you think stat line-wise Bears fans should feel good about with Rome Odunze this week, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm at 25. If there's a positive here, they like to throw him deep. 45% of Odunze's targets the past 2 weeks have come on deep passes, so he's the kind of guy that only really needs one sort of to make your week here. And no team has allowed more yards and more touchdowns on deep passes than the LA Rams. As you mentioned, they are banged up. How much Keenan Allen plays in his first game back remains to be seen. Jay likes the over on the passing prop for Caleb Williams as well. So Odunze, I think, is a risky but viable wide receiver 3 today.
How about JSN last week?
Hurt my feelings.
Receiving prop, we were all in agreement based on.
We liked it.
He went over 100 yards the week prior. So which of the two sides of JSN, what are we going to see this week?
Yeah, I think the reason why I liked him over 50.5 receiving yards last week is that he was a top 4 in the NFL in target rate going up against a suspect defense in Miami. And now I think the key for JSN, I'm just kind of not throwing out last week, but certainly kind of devaluing because it was such a strange game and the quarterback situation for Miami was such a mess. They just didn't really need to throw the Seahawks. Now they go up against a Lions team that plays a ton of man coverage. JSN should excel against that. So I think that he's going to see his targets go up again, and I would go back to the well and take him now over 47.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, so I dropped 3 yards this week. Question from Just Dabs on YouTube, hashtag FF Pregame. We'll get to these throughout the show. 10-10 PPR best flex, 10-team. Jacoby Myers, Etienne, DeMonte, David Montgomery, or JSN?
I get the question, and I actually, listen, I think Montgomery's got a decent chance at a touchdown. I think JSN actually has a nice game, but you have to go with Travis Etienne here. He's the number one running back, and just volume of touches. This is a desperation game for the Jaguars.
And Houston Texans D ain't great.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
Etienne is our answer.
there you go.
I'm on board with that.
All right.
Proud ETN owner
Approved.
in a couple
Approved by
weeks.
George the Great.
George
Rubber,
the Great.
rubber stamped here.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you can take
Goodness.
that to the bank.
All right, Just Dabs. Good luck.
Darnell Mooney at 31 through 40. He's looked really good the last couple weeks, Matthew, in this Falcons passing game. They got the Saints on.
He's got basically a 29% target share over the last 2 weeks. He's averaging over 16 fantasy points per game. He's got a 99% route participation so far this year. He has been out there quite a bit in an offense that is throwing against the New Orleans Saints. He'll get some looks, and so he's my wide receiver 31. Again, it's a low-scoring game that we expect, and the Saints have a good defense, but Darnell Mooney is operating as like a 1B to Drake London's 1A. Yeah. I prefer Darnell Mooney to Kyle Pitts if you're looking for somebody after London in that Falcons passing attack.
Yeah.
Forecast for Jameson Williams and the Lions.
So he's got the tough matchup against Seattle, who's allowed the second fewest fantasy points for receivers, but I still like him this game. I like to go with Lions players when they're playing at home. James Williams had the dud last week, but one catch, but they ran the ball 43 times. They knew they had to get back to the run after throwing it 55 times the week before that. James Williams comes into the week as wide receiver 20 in total fantasy points. So I kind of like him to be around that range for the rest of the season. So, he's still the leading receiver in yards for the Lions. So I like him as well.
You take last season's results with a grain of salt, but last year, Seahawks on the road at the Lions had that early season shootout that was a wild and wacky,
almost 56 to 55, that one.
Yeah, and if it gets to that point, look, the over-under is 46.5, so it could go that way again. And if it does, then you best believe that Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, Laporte, they all be involved.
Guys, we're going no huddle for the tight ends.
Yeah.
Our tight end rankings 1 through 10. Matthew, Dalton, Kincaid, top 3 guy this week.
Brock Bowers, Jake Ferguson both finished as top 3 tight ends when they faced the Ravens. Kincaid leads the team in both red zone and end zone targets. It's my tight end 3.
Kyle Pitts at number 7, Jay.
Hasn't happened for Kyle Pitts yet. Doesn't have more than 3 receptions in a game. So I think if there's another subpar game from Kyle Pitts, I think you begin to lower the ceiling on him the rest of the season.
Andrews, MIA through 3 weeks, number 11.
He's tight end 30 through 3 weeks, as you said. Like, he's gotten less than 10% target share. He's played 33% of the snaps last week. It is risk reward for Mark Andrews. Like, nothing you've seen so far this year gives you confidence in starting him.
fool's gold with Mike Gesicki the last couple of weeks, or is it a trend?
Well, you don't like the projected target share, but you do like that the Panthers have allowed the second most points to tight ends. They're the only team to allow multiple touchdowns to the tight end position this season. So that's kind of what you got to bank on there right now with Gesicki.
We'll see if that continues as FF pregame rolling right along. Week number 4. Oh, Simone Biles in the house. Of course, her husband.
Yeah.
Plays for the Bears.
Yeah, he does.
She's at least wearing a Bears sweater this time. Remember all the hubbub during the preseason when she had that Packers sweater. Of course, her husband used to play for the Packers.
Hubbub's a good word.
Yeah.
Yep. Underused.
Yes.
Bears 1-2, taking on the 1-2 Rams. Next, we are getting loose. Beer goggles. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, always part of the crew. Tom Brady back in the house on the broadcast team for Fox this week for Eagles. Bucks, of course, won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, dapping up some of his former teammates. Now, Tom Brady, a media member, and no longer just the GOAT playing quarterback. Beer goggles time. Remember, for those new to the game, it's on a scale of 1 to 5 beers. What would it take you to start these players this week? Our first game, Minnesota at Green Bay. Matthew, kick us off with old Jaden Reed.
2 beers. 2 beers. Again, we haven't seen Jordan Love, but, not a lot. Like, just, okay, I'm feeling social. I'm feeling good. I'm like, what's up, Lawrence? That's how I'm feeling here. Look, he played one game with Jordan Love, right? He went 4 for 138 and a touchdown in that game. That was the Brazil game. Worth noting, the Vikings have allowed the 8th most receptions to the slot. He had 80 or more receiving yards in both games against these Vikings last year as well. So, again, we don't know exactly what this game will look like and how healthy Jordan Love is, but I feel pretty good that they're putting him out there, and I feel best about Jaden Reed among the Packers pass catchers. Only 2 beers. Nothing. I'm feeling good. I'm having fun. There's a little bit of risk, but yeah.
Not quite your 2 a.m. holler for Lawrence there. Christian Watson also.
5 beers. Yeah.
Wow.
Ramping it up off of Matthew's
Just
kind of
mainlining it.
slightly getting loose vibe. I'm on the floor with Christian Watson. He has 5 catches on the set. He hasn't done anything so far. He's still an idea. We just haven't seen Christian Watson fully realized. So I need to see it first from him before I'm starting him with any confidence whatsoever.
Buddy of mine who works on the SNF crew, Jorge, was asking about Jordan Addison or Brian Thomas Jr. Start sit, Lawrence. Jordan Addison making his season debut. Haven't seen him yet. So how many beers if you were to start him?
Jorge, I'm going to need 4 beers to start Jordan Addison this week. Nailers come on a little bit. with Sam Darnold balling, you just got to see how Addison fits into this. We know long term he's the wide receiver 2 for right now, but for this particular game, can't do it.
Rams at Bears, game that I will be glued to. Bears are favored in this one, 2-1-2 teams. DeAndre Swift, I mean, we've been saying how tough he is to trust. So how many brewskis would you need here, Matthew?
4 beers. We want to be almost drunk. Almost like, passed out drunk. 4 beers would, get me pretty like, what's going on? Under 50 total yards in every game this season. He's got less than a 10% target share through 3 games. His snap rate has decreased every week so far. Not a tough matchup, which is the only thing that makes it not a 5-beer thing, but I'm super nervous about him. He made the hate list this week, running back 29 for me. 4 beers.
This next guy in the Bears, Jay, I'm assuming you would say, hey, take my car keys because I'm starting Keenan Allen this week.
Yeah, 4 beers as well for Keenan Allen. I mean, it's still Keenan Allen, so I can't be 5 beers, but I suspect he's going to be the 3rd option in what has been a suspect passing offense to date. Roma Dunze I'd have you ahead of him.
Other side, we got Matthew Stafford throwing to Demarcus Robinson. No Cooper Kupp still, no Puka Nacua. How many beers we go on 1 through 5?
And that's why it'll be 3 beers, so kind of in the middle. He's played 92% of the snaps in every game this season. He just hasn't been doing anything, but Chicago allows the 6th fewest fantasy points to receivers. So in the middle, I get 3 beers right there.
Saints at Falcons. Nice matchup here. Falcons favored. Rashid Shaheed. First couple weeks went off goose egg last week. So what are we expecting out of
1 beer?
Rashid?
I don't care. 1 beer. I'm starting him. No worries about here. I mean, look, if you would normally start him, I would start him again. Look, he's had at least a 20% target share in every game this season, an 85% route participation. Yes, it did not happen for him last week, but still, I think Carr will be better. He's got an almost 20-yard average depth of target. They're chucking it to him deep. He only needs 1 play to make it. At Atlanta, under a dome, give me Rashid Shaheed. 1 beer. Just 1 beer. Yeah. Please, come on.
The man throwing to him, Derek Carr for the Saints.
3 beers on Derek Carr. One of my favorite props today is Derek Carr over 203.5 passing yards. I think that in the dome against a pass funnel defense, he's going to go over that number, but that's still quite a low number. And for fantasy purposes, I think guys who are drafted in that range who you may have as options like Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, I'd prefer any of those guys over Derek Carr.
Prop I tailed Jay Gunn on, and Kirk Cousins for the Falcons, Lawrence.
I'm going to need 5 of them things.
Wow.
This is why. Look, he quarterback 26 in fantasy points per game right now. Quarterback 20, like behind Malik Willis, Deshaun Watson. Then you look at the fact that the game is only 41.5 too. Then you look at the fact that it's a tough defense. I need 5 for Kirk Cousins this week.
You're going heavy duty right there. Last game, Chiefs at the Chargers. Chiefs undefeated, 3-0. Chargers had that hot start, lost last week to the Steelers. Justin Herbert, even hobbled with that ankle, will play this week. J.K. Dobbins, first couple weeks looked great. No surprise, he had a pedestrian week against the Steelers. So this week, Matthew.
3 beers. Their offensive line is beat up. Justin Herbert is on half a leg. They're playing the Chiefs, which is a pretty good run defense. They've allowed the 4th fewest rushing yards to running backs this season. Both Derrick Henry and Bijan Robinson were under 50 rushing yards against Kansas City. And so now you again, so I'm nervous about this. Second lowest implied team total for the Chargers in week 4. The only thing that gets you the Dobbins is you hope he falls in the end zone and just volume will work. So 3 beers for me on J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins, he's my running back 25. 3 beers. I need 3 beers to start him. Where I hadn't a viable option, I went somewhere else.
This could be a record. You guys already have a 12-pack down through 3 players.
These is tough. It's tough starts right here.
That's right. Come on.
We're going to have to fireman carry you off the set after this set.
Could be one night in Stanford.
Yeah.
Keep drinking.
Wait till we're in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Lad McConkey for the Chargers.
5 beers again. I just don't know where the ceiling is on Lad McConkey at the moment. I think that the emergence is a little strong on Quentin Johnston, but kind of the semblance of an emergence from Quentin Johnston, I think, knocks Lad McConkey down as well. Worried about Herbert's health. Really tough pass defense in Kansas City, so I don't want to start Lad McConkey.
17 total beers for Jay. Lawrence, you going to match that, or you going to be one back when you're starting Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs?
Well, I'm going to go 4 here, and the reason it won't be
Very
5,
sensible.
I won't go 5 because he has the ability to make a big play, but just 6 catches through 3 games. Last 2 games, 5 or less fantasy points. You got to see some more involvement and more volume for Worthy before you put him in your fantasy lineup.
So a 30 rack can contain you two guys. That's 33 beers if you're scoring at home, 17 for Jay,
we turned it,
16 for Lawrence. So I will help translate pickup lines as you two guys are trying to take home Matthew. This is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Here's the season rankings so far. Picked up Barry twice. The Aussie has been able to whisper sweet nothings and take home Matthew Barry. Each guy so far 1 and 2 in their bets cashing. But week number 4, a new week. Lawrence, you are leadoff hitter.
Yeah, nice little 1 and 2 record. It should be in parentheses that all my bets start with a plus, and it's gonna be like that.
One of mine was
today.
plus 800.
Yeah, and we ain't going back to that. But look here,
now he's
Matthew. We talked about the Panthers receivers a little bit earlier this week, and Xavier Legette. Look, his alt line is at 40 receiving yards here at plus 110. He hit 35 in week 1, playing 59% of the snaps. He hit 42 last week, playing 59% of the snaps. No Adam Thielen now, right? So we expect that number to go up for him. Jonathan Mingo, too, that number will go up. But look, Carolina's getting 4.5 points. In the game totals 46.5. That's tied for second most this whole week 4. So there we go. Xavier Legette, 40 receiving yards. That could be one play. That could be the first play.
That's tough.
It's not the sexiest attire.
It's not. I had to switch it up a little bit.
But
like,
it's plus money, right? You're saying it's plus money.
Plus money. A little bit over.
Lawrence Plus Money Jackson.
That's his name. By the way, Lawrence Plus Money Jackson is a more legit nickname than Mr. Primetime for Lamar Jackson.
I meant to say Primetime Lamar. That's what I meant to say, which kind of, I didn't mean to say Mr. Prime, because that's not a thing. You know what I'm saying?
No, exactly.
Primetime Lamar is.
Fair enough.
All right.
We're here to course.
Lawrence went a little art house with that one. I'm going more mainstream, more Michael Bay type of loud explosion cinema. Jamar Chase over 72.5 receiving yards. Here's the analysis. It's Jamar Chase. It's too low. It's just way too low.
Mad at it.
Why is it 72.5? He was set 10 yards higher on Monday Night Football against the Commanders, and he went like 40 yards over. So why, against a very suspect secondary? Think about what Derek Carr and Rashid Shaheed did to the Panthers secondary in week 1. And here's the key with these passing props, receiving props, all props. They're so dependent on game script. The Bengals' defense is atrocious. I just don't think there are going to be that many games where they can run away and hide and run the ball. Jamar Chase, he went handily over without even getting targeted that heavily last week. So I think Jamar Chase, with the season on the line, where are they going? I think they're going to Jamar Chase, so he gets at least 73 receiving yards.
I like both those bets. I would take both those bets, but I'm going home with Lawrence. I like Xavier at plus money.
Don't let me down.
40 yards for plus money. You know, I like Andy Dalton in this game. I actually prefer to face the Bengals than I do face the Panthers. In essence, I get it. Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase. But I could see him trying to get T. Higgins involved. I could see the Panthers trying to bracket Jamar Chase. I actually think both those bets cash. I like both of them, but going home with Lawrence. But again, keep your phone on. I might, around midnight. I might, you up? I'm coming through.
Big phone on guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Lawrence Plus Money Jackson strikes again. Aaron Jones, here he is in the return to Lambeau Field. I thought he put out a great message saying nothing but love and gratitude to Packer fans for his experience on playing for the Packers the past, 7 seasons. But now, first time in road uni within the division for the undefeated Minnesota Vikings. We have our touchdown parlay. You're going to want to hear that next. It's after the break.
Hey folks, Danny Carter here from Rotoworld, coming at you with 3 widely available Week 4 kicker options for the folks. As always, we're going to start with Greg the Leg, aka Legatron, aka Greg Zuerlein of the Jets, taking on the Broncos. The Jets are 8-point favorites against the struggling Broncos with a 23.75 implied total. That's one of the highest of the week. There should be plenty of positive and neutral game script for Zuerlein to get there for fantasy purposes in Week 4. Now on to Arizona with Matt Prater, who is available somehow in 80% of leagues. He has multiple field goal attempts in every game this year. And in 2 of the 3 games against the Commanders this year, kickers have attempted at least 3 field goals. So what we have here is a big spot, potentially, for Matt Prater. Consider him for Week 4. Finally, Dustin Hopkins in an ugly game, what will be an ugly game between the Browns and Raiders, I think will feature a lot of field goals. Hopkins is facing a Vegas team that has allowed 10 field goal tries on the season. That's the second most. You could do worse than Dustin Hopkins in Week 4.
Man, Denny.
Thank you, Danny.
Denny staying kicker strong there. Always love his
Always.
kicker breakdowns. Nothing warms Matthew's heart more than hearing about kickers on FF Pregame.
You're damn right.
Okay, let's get to it. FF Pregame. We have our anytime touchdown parlay. Remember, DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. This week, Lawrence plus Money Jackson has infected the rest of the crew because every guy we're going with is plus money, and this is a tantalizing touchdown parlay. It's plus 2,200, 2,211 right now. So let's get to who we have this week. Jay, your man.
Yes, contractually obligated to go with Najee Harris, as previously mentioned, the greatest Najee to ever play the game of football. He's plus 105 individually. He's going to have all the workload without Jalen Warren, so let's say he gets in the end zone against the Colts.
Lawrence?
Yeah, Jaden Daniels has 3 rushing touchdowns in 3 games. So when he gets to the when he gets near the goal line, it's 50-50 him or Matthews' guy, Brian Robinson.
Look, and that's why I'm going with Brian Robinson. Arizona top 5. Arizona's top 10 in fantasy points allowed to running backs. Teams and Brian Robinson top 5 among running backs in goal line rushes. So in one of the highest over-unders on this, I think it is the highest over-under of the slate as well. So they're going to be in scoring opportunity a lot. It's either Jaden Daniels or Brian Robinson. I think actually both get in the end zone, possibly more than once.
Both did last
against
week.
the Cardinals. That is correct, sir.
Nico Collins is the alpha in the Texans offense. Pretty high over-under in this game. I think it's about 46.5. I could see this going above that. So Nico Collins on the board with a touchdown. And I think throughout the course of the season, Nico Collins is going to be like a top 5 wide receiver when it comes to fantasy football. Bar trivia standings.
Oh.
Jay Gunn out in front,
Damn,
28,
this is
14,
yes.
and 1.
Yes.
Mr. Berry right there, 26,
Rigged.
16, and 1. How about Lawrence?
Man,
Whew,
man,
man, 19, 23,
I don't know about that.
and
I
1.
need a recount.
Man,
Or stop the count.
Lawrence-
Recount,
Dude.
stop the count, all
Dude.
that.
Lawrence last week,
Man.
3, 12, and
Oh,
1.
you just gonna throw that out? Ooh, you can't say that, George. You ain't playing.
Man, it's so. You're due.
3. Now I gotta go, what, 12 and 3?
Get bar
Let's
trivia
get it. Let's
time,
get
boys.
it, baby. Let's go.
Let's rip it. Who had more total yards, Bijan Robinson or Alvin Kamara?
Bijan
Bijan.
Robinson.
Alvin Kamara.
Okay. More passing yards, Caleb Williams or Matthew Stafford?
Caleb.
Caleb.
Caleb across the board. More fantasy points, Aaron Jones or Josh Jacobs?
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones.
Josh Jacobs.
There we go, Jay Gunn. More rushing yards, Anthony Richardson or Justin Fields?
Justin Fields.
Richardson.
Richardson.
More fantasy points, Breece Hall or Aaron Rodgers?
Give me Breece Hall.
Breece Hall.
I will also say Breece Hall.
Wow, no trust in Aaron Rodgers here. More receiving yards, Mike Evans or Chris Godwin? Resurgent Chris Godwin.
He's been really, really good.
Mike Evans.
Chris Godwin.
That was tough.
Godwin.
Okay. More passing yards, Joe Burrow or Andy Dalton?
Andy Dalton.
Burrow.
Burrow.
More receptions, Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs?
Diggs.
Diggs.
Nico Collins.
More fantasy points, Kyler Murray or Jaden Daniels?
Mine's Jaden Daniels.
This is, I mean,
Kyler Murray's my ride or die.
Ooh, I'm about to
Kyler
say.
Murray.
I'm about to say.
ride or die goes over.
Kyler Murray.
Kyler.
I have
Your faith
Kyler
in
at 2 and
5?
Jaden at 3. Kyler Murray it is.
Yeah.
In a 1-point loss, a thrilling 1-point loss, Kyler Murray goes off today. In a thrilling 1-point loss.
55 to 56.
I mean, I'm going
55 to
Jaden
56.
Daniels 4 touchdowns.
Yes.
How can I not
Shades
pick
of
him?
that Chiefs-Rams Monday night game of 5 years ago, whenever that was.
The Thursday night.
Oh, was it Thursday?
Yeah. That was a wild game. More receiving yards. We're splitting the baby here with the 49ers. Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel?
Give me Brandon Ayuk.
Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, Ayuk.
More rushing yards, Jerome Ford or Zamir White?
Oh, that's a tough question, George. Shouldn't be allowed to ask that. Jerome Ford.
Jerome Ford.
Ford.
Or just going rushing, not total rushing receiving here. So
Jerome Ford.
all for
Yeah,
Ford.
That's all right. Were you trying to change our minds?
Throwing it out there.
Meanwhile, it's
go
not been
Ford.
very good.
Did Travis Kelce score a touchdown? Is this a get-right game for Travis Kelce?
I'll say no.
Nah.
Or is he just old?
Dang.
I think he'll have a good game. It's just touchdown.
You saying he look old with his mustache? That what you trying to say?
Travis's mustache will be tweeting the show next week. And our final one here, who scored more fantasy points, Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson?
Josh Allen.
Finally, where I could be alone.
Josh Allen.
Lamar Jackson. Jackson stick together.
Josh Allen.
We've been holstering a bunch of viewer questions, so we got some time. We got a few minutes left
Yeah.
in the show here on FF
Is holstering
Pregame.
a verb?
Week number
Yes,
4.
It is.
It is. Yeah.
But in
I
this
just know what a
instance,
holster
Yep,
is.
it is.
Yep.
There you go, Matthew.
very well.
Just slapped you like a crepe there. Okay, in an eliminator league, need 2. Tyler Johnson.
I don't know what an
Kareem Hunt.
eliminator league is. I hope that you mean
That's
a
probably
guillotine
guillotine.
league.
That what
Probably
it
a
is.
guillotine league where you play at guillotineleagues.com. You can start a league at any single time. You need 2. I'm going to say, Kareem Hunt. This is ugly. I'm going to say Foreman and Hopkins because I think those are the 2 guys that touch the ball the most. Like in an eliminator league or a survivor, I assume, whatever, fantasy, guillotine league, you just want floor, right? I think those 2 guys touch the ball most. I mean, Dotson I want no part of. Kareem Hunt, we just don't know. So it's
Yeah, he
Tyler
ain't
Johnson's
played
the only
yet.
question. Hopkins, I think you're definitely starting. He had a nice game last week. It's just, Foreman or Tyler Johnson, guys.
Same sentiment.
Hopkins
Saved
just
the
did
best
a
for
little
last.
something.
Foreman.
Foreman. I know Ford took it over, but again, hopefully maybe Cleveland wants to limit what Deshaun Watson does and give it to both guys.
Those are worse options than the bourbons and taco guy from
Yeah.
earlier in the show. Derek Edmondson, question here. Should I trade Jordan Mason and Mike Evans for Rashee Rice and James Conner? Would get Rice and Conner 10-team PPR league. Our running backs are Derrick Henry and James
Really
Cook
do
and David
like
Montgomery.
Rasheed Rice, man. Having Rasheed Rice is something.
I would.
I would
just
do that deal.
because of the playoffs. I think it's unlikely that Jordan Mason will be the lead guy in the playoffs.
I agree. I mean, I prefer Rice to Evans, so now it's Connor versus Mason. And again, to your point, we think Mason loses his job at some point. So yes, I would do that deal.
Yep.
All right.
What do we got next?
Here's
here
another
on
one.
Hashtag FF Pregame as we're getting to all these late in the show. 14-man league. Just got offered Ridley and CMC for Kenneth Walker. I have Gibbs and Kamara already. Should I go with this?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you definitely should.
Yeah, I mean, again,
Same
obviously
season
the unknown is Chris McCaffrey here, but Walker's already been hurt once this year, so there's no guarantee that at the end of the year Walker has played more games than McCaffrey. You're adding Ridley, who's a value in a 14-team league, so yeah,
And
I
you're
actually would do
solid
that.
at running back. You're
Yeah, you
good
are.
at running back.
You don't have any depth, but I don't mind the deal at all.
Do that one quickly, Henny Z, before it gets retracted.
All right, this one from NYC, 1988, pick 2 for flex. We got Rashad White, Bucky Irving, Xavier Worthy, Jonathan Mingo, half-point PPR. Thanks.
Ooh, Lord.
I
I gotta go with
Bucks.
Rashad White, right?
You know what? I'm gonna. I'd say I'd go both
Yeah, I'm about
Bucks
to
running
say.
backs.
Because
Agreed.
Like, again-
definitely Rashad White.
Yeah, exactly. I'd go both Buccaneers running backs just because we just don't know what
Hope
what
one
Worthy.
gets
I
and
think
Mingo-
one of them scored today.
Yeah,
One of them
exactly, at
scoring
least.
today.
Would that be Buck Up or what?
Buck up. Yeah, exactly. I like that. Buck up. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Tampa Bay down. I don't know. Tampa twofer.
Yar.
I'm making
Twofer.
It's Tampa twofer. I don't know if I'd go with that in your Google search. Remember next week, we are on the road. We got a road show.
Oh, we're on the road. That's right.
Yes.
We're going to Pittsburgh next week.
Yes.
We'll be at an Applebee's in the greater Pittsburgh area. Follow all of us on social media at Jared Savaricas, at Lord Don't Lose, at Croucher JD, at Matthew Berry TMR, where we will tweet this out. We'll talk about it on Fantasy Football Pregame and Fantasy Football Happy Hour all week long. But yes, next week we are in Pittsburgh. Come see us live. It'll be 100% free from 11 to 1. We look forward to seeing you, Pittsburgh. It's closing time. We don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. For Lawrence and Jay and George, the Greek, I'm Matthew. Peace out.